Hello everybody, my name is Mandy. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. It is June 14th, meaning that about 6 months ago I moved to Florida from Germany on a J1 visa. I'm gonna be here for 6 more months. So we're halfway pretty much through, and I thought why not do a little update on my time here, what it's been like, what I would like to share. So yeah, welcome to a little life update, I guess. So I'm sorry, I got my little Coca-Cola right here because I have to think. So I moved here in January. I got my visa approved in December and I started my internship in February. So it's been a whirlwind, to say the least. Moving here was a lot less stressful than I thought it was gonna be. However, it was so much more expensive than I thought it was gonna be. First of all, the visa itself, really expensive. And then I moved into an apartment by myself, which most interns don't do. Most interns share an apartment or like rent out a room or anything. But I'm a 27-year-old woman. I don't like to share an apartment. My dad was here for like 5 weeks in the beginning as well, so I just knew that I would need my own space. So I had to rent an apartment. And because I don't have a credit score here in the States, when I rented my apartment, I didn't have a social security number. So I had to pay upfront a whole month of rent as my deposit, which I'm never getting back because it's a non-refundable deposit or bond, I guess, because I'm not American. So that's something that I didn't really plan, not gonna lie, but I moved here and obviously I had to furnish my entire apartment as well. So that's another quite expensive thing to do. Thankfully, most of my furniture is like from Target and Walmart and TJ Maxx and Ross. You could probably buy furniture off Facebook Marketplace, but when I looked there was just nothing for me there. So most of my apartment is Target actually, which is quite inexpensive. However, like my sofa is the most uncomfortable thing ever. But yeah, so that's another thing that you'd have to think about if you were to do an internship for a year and you want to live on your own. Just expenses are kind of a lot, especially in the beginning. And then, since this is Florida, I don't live in like Miami, even though even in Miami you need that. You need a car. You definitely need a car to go to places, to go to work and back, to, you know, at least. So you definitely have to get a car, which again, not the cheapest thing ever. I definitely went over my budget by a lot to get the car that I wanted. And then you also have to get car insurance, because here in Florida you can only register a car when you have car insurance. And again, even though at that point I had my social security number, I still don't have a credit score here in the States. So car insurance, expensive, not gonna lie. For my Jeep, I pay $220 a month for the least amount of coverage I could get. So definitely something you have to think about as well when you're doing an internship or a trainee or whatever. But all of those expenses aside, it has been a great experience. The kind of people you meet along the way are, in my case at least, some of the friendliest people I could have ever come across. When I moved to a place that's like so far away from home and I don't know anybody, I try to be very open-minded. I try to include myself into conversations. I try to include myself into things that they're doing, and you know, not very pushy way. Like, I'm not like, oh, can I just join? No, like I try to like talk to them at work, and most of the time people are very nice and they will invite you out, and especially in the beginning you should definitely go. If somebody invites you somewhere and you feel like, yes, that's a safe spot, then go. Because that is how you make friends here. That is how you get out of the house. That is how you're not spending your weekends alone. Because if you're gonna be in a different country for, like me, a whole year, then you definitely don't want to be lonely. You do not want to be alone every single weekend. So making friends is very important. But yeah, like one of the first things that happened for me was in my first week at my internship, my colleagues like to go out for lunch every once in a while, and especially during that time, every Friday they will go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and they invited me out. At that point my dad was still here, but I told my dad, listen, I know we normally spend our lunch together, but I got invited out to go to lunch with them, and obviously I want to make friends, so I would like to go with them. Obviously my dad was like, yes, totally, you should do that. So I went to lunch with them, even though when I'm surrounded by like a huge group of people, and I think we were like 10 people at that point, I'm very quiet, but I just like to hang out with others even though I'm quiet. And it's a good thing that some of them are talking quite a lot, so it wasn't like, you know, weird for me to be quiet. But that's definitely something, like if you move to a different country, just try and get out of your comfort zone. I mean, the fact that you moved to a different country is already a step out of your comfort zone, so just take a few more steps and talk to people. I also joined a Pilates group on Saturday, which is also just very nice for me to get out, like also to be surrounded by people I don't work with, which is also sometimes nice, and definitely worth it. Even though Pilates, oh my gosh, it's so expensive, which honestly my monthly expenses are a lot more than I thought they were gonna be. So that's definitely something that you need to think of if you're like calculating how much you're gonna spend a month. Add like 10% more to that at least. I mean, I got here during a time where eggs were like $8 or $9, and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to like afford this? But actually most groceries here are pretty much similar price to how groceries cost in Germany, so that for me, I was like, okay, it's like the same thing, so I wasn't too worried about that. Then gas is actually a lot cheaper here than Germany, so I was like, that's good. I'm trying to think what else. Thankfully I didn't have like any situation where I had to use my health insurance, which is another thing that you pay for your J1 visa. You pay upfront for 12 months of health insurance, which I think was like $1,300 or something. So I think in total, like my entire visa process with the organization cost and stuff, I think we're roughly like $5,000 or something close to $5,000. It was just insane, oh my gosh. But Thankfully, the internship that I'm doing here is a paid internship, which I think most of them are, so that's definitely a plus. My internship covers my rent, which is nice. Otherwise, I probably could not afford to live on my own, I'm not gonna lie. So I personally didn't have to use my health insurance. I know of at least one person who did have to go to the hospital during his stay here because in the house that he lived in, the AC broke and it leaked Freon, which is very, very bad for you. And he was feeling very, very sick, so he had to go to the hospital and he had to call the insurance first and like go through the whole step. But you are covered by insurance, which is very nice, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just, you know, a hassle to get all the paperwork pretty much all figured out. But I feel like that's the case in like every single country, so you know, whatever. But if there are like any specific questions that you have for me, then please leave them in the comments down below and I will definitely try to answer them. I also have done an internship in Spain where I lived for 6 months. The internship itself was only 4 months, but I lived in Spain for 6 months. So if you have any questions about that, also please leave them in the comments down below. And I will definitely try and answer all of them in the upcoming video. But for now, that's like all the living abroad updates that I have. It's been a fun time. I really enjoy it. I like the place that I live. I like the people that I have met. It's a very good experience so far and I'm very happy. And it definitely was the right decision for me to take this step in my life. I'm 27 years old, as I've said, which for a lot of people is quite late to do an internship like this. But it just wasn't financially feasible before this. So don't feel like you're ever too old to do something like that. And yeah, definitely worth the experience. And if you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will try to answer them in an upcoming video. So subscribe if you haven't already and I will see you soon. Bye!